Are you certain that you won't already jeopardize it by doing this?
We are certain, and we've had great relationships. We've talked to them. They understand exactly where we're at. And again, our ratings have improved year after year, and they have a lot of confidence in what we're doing.
One of the issues is, of course, local government, state government has to be rated. The federal government doesn't have to. They just print money and go into debt. And under law, we can't go into debt. Whether it's Board of Education or City Colleges, you can't go into debt. You just can't. The federal government can't go into debt, and they don't have to have any rating agencies. And that's been my complaint about why local government should have it, state governments have to have it. Why should not the government have a rating agency? Why should they be able to go into debt? And then that basically gets people confused, taxpayers, because they say, gee, the federal government keeps spending money, but they're going into debt. And they think there's unlimited resources, and that's why in local government you have to make difficult, challenging decisions, and you have to make decisions like this.
Could you dip into your reserves one more year after this? Is this it?
Again, this is not any way to sustain progress, and we're getting better and better each year. We cannot take a step backwards. If we can't borrow, if the cost of borrowing goes up, our buildings start getting torn up, roofs don't get fixed, and so this is not a long-term solution.
No, this is not a long-term solution. This is basically, and this year, this could be the toughest year anybody's ever seen, because if you look at what is taking place, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they're talking about between $20 and $28 billion to take them out. So it's having a huge impact of this crisis going on in the country, and we have been in a recession. I mean, that's realistic, and that's one of the issues. It's all governments, their revenues are going down, both state, county, and city. I mean, this is all over the country. This is not different than any other city. And I've talked to mayors and all over, and they're running the same situations, and unfortunately, states are too. And so it's a very difficult, I think, a very difficult economic climate.
Was there any particular development in the economy that affects ordinary people that persuaded you, I can't touch them for another property tax increase this year?
Well, I think this is going to be a very difficult budget, even with the city budget. We're not going to increase real estate taxes, even with the city budget, even with our budget. We're not going to do that. Because I think what is happening is more so in the real estate market more than anything else. It got deeper and deeper, it's getting deeper, and no one knows where the end is. And they're trying to do everything possible, dealing with the mortgage crisis, not in the city, but in the country. Now you see Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae coming along. They're talking about a bailout of between $20 and $28 billion. And so there is a crisis. And so just even with our own city budget, we're not going to increase property taxes whatsoever.
Your Honor, having to dip into the reserve fund, how frustrating does it make you that for years they keep saying next year, education funding reform in Springfield, it still hasn't?
Well, I really believe it's really unfair statewide. It's not for Chicago that you're taking your real estate taxes and using it mostly for local real estate taxes for schools. And that's really unfair. And if you have a large poor population in the city, we have to fund them. And you have schools, and I'm not talking about, school districts that are wealthy. I have no problems with that, you know what I mean? But there's so unevenness. I'm not asking them to pay more, but there has to be more fairness. And that's why it's challenging every year. It's challenging, and we're doing a great job. At one time, we used to be the scapegoats. We're not going to fund anything for public schools because of Chicago. Now they don't say that. I mean, I'd be very frank. There are improvements in all schools, and if we didn't have tax increment financing to build the new schools and do things, we would not even be talking about new elementary schools, new high schools. And that is something that, again, it's all local. This is all local. It's not federal or state money. And it's really sad, but I'm not trying to, pinpoint everybody else. I'm sorry. I really believe education should be the priority. We have to do something. Some way this has to be done in Illinois. If it isn't, it just unfortunately hurts more and more homeowners. In the American dream, whether you live in a city or suburban area, it's own your own home. That's realistic. That is your dream. It doesn't matter who you are.
For the individual homeowner, even though you're holding the line on taxes, if their assessment has gone up, won't their dollars out to the schools actually rise?
We've been looking at that. That we've done everything dealing with we had I think we broke records in regards to review of all, I think it was maybe 30,000, I'm not sure, it was a huge amount. I mean, both in the city and suburban area, and that's been an issue. You know that. I've said that. It'd be different if you're selling your home. But you cannot, just because someone builds a new home or buys a new home, you reassess everyone. That is really unfair.
So is without any action from the state, is the likelihood now greater that there will be a request for a tax increase next year.
Well, we don't know. You take one year, you have to take 1 year at a time. You can't say next year. You have to take 1 year at a time. I mean, this is, I think it's much deeper. I believe that. I don't care what people tell me out of Washington, D.C. This is much deeper. And it's not just in Illinois, it's in every state. If your gas is going up, if your food prices are going up, and unfortunately, the economy is not doing well in the growth of jobs. I mean, we're fortunate, we just got Miller and Coors to put their corporate headquarters with a couple hundred new jobs to be assembled here. But that's the other thing you have to look at. I mean, you have to try to get companies that will be able to expand within the city or the region. That's very important for us.
Arnie, were there any academic plans that had to be at least scaled back a bit because of this?
Sure, and that, again, that's the great frustration, is that we know what's working. And what my biggest frustration is that we can't take to scale what works. We had 200 schools open on Saturdays last year. We should have 600 schools open Saturdays. We had 150 schools open after school. We have the shortest school day in the country. That's not something we're proud of. So what do? We do a lot more after-school programming. We get all these national awards for our community schools effort. Everyone looks at Chicago. I keep reminding folks, we're in 150 schools. We have 650. Less than 25% of our kids have access to what we need. So there's huge investments that we can't take to scale that are driving the change. And that's not fair. It's not fair to our kids.
When you have to delay the bonds, when you have to delay the bond sale, how will that manifest itself physically? What won't happen? What might be delayed?
Well, we're trying not to delay anything. What we're doing is we're going to take money from the existing capital program and reallocate it on those current projects now. And, but what it does mean is absolutely we're going to have to issue these bonds at the end of the year. So we can do it for 1 year, but we're going to have to issue them late in June. And we're just trying to, basically we're putting off that payment of $35 million to help.
Arnie, what's the total CPS budget for fiscal '09, the budget that's coming forward?
About $5.15 billion.
5.1, and that includes capital?
No, that's the operating side.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mayor, you raised taxes $275 million. The county board raised the sales tax 1%. The CTA got a 0.25%. But what is it that finally convinced you that the taxpayers have had enough?
Well, first of all, this economy is getting more and more challenging. It's not just in the country, it's much more challenging than people believe it is. And I think you realize that too in your own industry. It's very challenging. And so you really have to, I think it's going to be much deeper and much longer. That's my prediction. I'd be very frank. I think there's no magic solution coming out of Washington. To give everybody $1,000, I mean, that's great. I mean, you give everybody $1,000. But if you don't have an infrastructure bill to put people to work and put businesses to work, I mean, Franklin Delano Roosevelt showed you what the answer was. And we think $1,000, those in Washington think $1,000 is the answer. I don't think so. I think people would rather have a job and get people back to work, expand the workforce. I really believe that. But people have a different philosophy. Some people think $1,000 to every citizen is the best solution. I think that's an easy solution. The better solution is a huge infrastructure bill. And to look at every federal law, rules, and regulations. One of the things that with the federal government, it's hard to get the money. So if they appropriate it, it takes about a year and a half to get it. So with the exception of health regulations, safety regulations, they should find out what's working, what doesn't work, and come with an infrastructure bill to directly get that money out as quickly as possible. And the faster they do that, I really believe they'll put more people to work. And then more people will go to work and be able to purchase things and things like that. But I think this economy has real situations.
So what was it that finally convinced you after?
When I saw layoffs at Tribune, that's you start seeing layoffs in the newspaper industry, that's a big sign. How about that one? When you see that, that says a lot. I mean,
that convinced you that it was going to be a longer problem?
I think it's becoming a much longer problem. The recession was finally admitted. I don't know if anybody admitted we've been in a recession, but we've been in a recession more so this year. And I think, and what you see in the private sector, you're seeing, unfortunately, it's affecting everyone. If it affects your industry, you know it's going to affect the whole industry. It's affecting everyone. So it's a very difficult. It's challenging to people. How many people losing their jobs? I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, so like anything else, you're cognizant of that, but you have to make decisions, and decisions are very difficult to make. Not in public life, but also private life. Some people can't make them. They quit because they can't make decisions. I mean, I'm sorry, you have to make decisions, set your priorities, and you have to do that. That's why you're elected. It's a very difficult time in the economy, more so.
How do you think this will affect next year's city budget?
Oh, I can't even predict that. I mean, I don't have something to look into and figure out next year. I just work it 1 year at a time. Let's work it 1 year at a time and then try to find out how it's going to go. No one can predict that. Even the federal government can't, even the economists can't.
Doesn't this postpone the day of reckoning for the schools though? I mean, by borrowing?
No, you have to do that. No, it's not that they are reckoning for the Chicago Public Schools. I'm very proud of Chicago Public Schools. 1995, the articles, everything was the cesspools, the sewer, the public school system, not only in the state of Illinois, but the whole country. And now it's looked upon great progress. And you see great progress and you have to make difficult decisions. You have to do these things, unfortunately.